If life isn't what you want it to be right now, please take time. Take a day off, right? Like tell your team, reschedule everybody from Friday the whatever, because I'm doing a retreat with my spouse and we are going to figure this out. There's action items that need to be taken from this. Otherwise, the hamster wheel keeps rolling, the treadmill keeps going. We keep doing what we've always been doing. And if that's not delivering you what you want, you have to change.
Hello, and welcome to Build Your Remarkable Practice podcast. This podcast is dedicated to chiropractors who are in the seasons of launching and building their practice. Join myself, Dr. Lona, and my co-host, Dr. Bobby, as we have conversations each week as it relates to building the practice of your dreams. And remember, you can have a remarkable practice as part of a remarkable life, not instead of one. We're here to lead you on the way. All right. Welcome back to the Build Your Remarkable Practice podcast. Our return guest, Dr. Chris Grier. He's coming back, probably 4 or 5 times now. And we're going to have a pretty consistent conversation with Dr. Chris. And I am excited. We are going to be talking today about a conversation I don't think we've had yet on this podcast, but it is a huge part of the culture of TRP. And that is, how do you build your remarkable life alongside your remarkable practice? So welcome, Dr. Chris. Maybe just tee us up with, when you hear that phrase of you can have a remarkable life as well as a remarkable practice, like, what does that mean to you?
Yeah. Thanks, Dr. Lona. Thanks for having me back. Love being on the podcast. Thanks to the listeners for tuning in. I think this is one of the top podcasts in the profession for sure. And I think this is a really important topic. Absolutely. And when we do, honestly, one of the things that originally drew me to the remarkable practice a decade ago was the tagline, like building a remarkable practice as part of a remarkable life, not instead of one or in place of one. I was like, yes, that's what I want. Those are my values. I'm more interested in having a remarkable life than I am in having a massive business. And so, I think that's something that a lot of chiropractors resonate with, and it's possibly something that doesn't get a clear enough face in the profession and through all the things that we see. So I'm excited to dig into that. I'm excited to talk about it today.
Yeah, I agree with you. We were just having this conversation offline of many of us have obviously chose different values for how we take care of our health, our family health, because of being chiropractors. And we're fine with doing things kind of counterculture. In fact, we're like, the water's fine. We're trying to bring more people into this, knowing of the body self-healing, self-regulating and whatnot. And because I think we've already questioned that narrative of healthcare and how to live our life, I think many of us live a different lifestyle in many parts of our experience, whether that is how we, choose schools for our children, or possibly unschool or do a homeschool, how we birth our kids, how we handle our finances, how we engage in, our relationships and creating a loving atmosphere in a family. And now I do think when we understand, life flows above, down, inside out, you apply that to every part of your life, right?
Yes.
And so, Chris, I know you've homeschooled, or you were homeschooling your son for many years with your wife. And I'd love to just start there. Like, how have you having a successful relationship where you can work alongside each other, even in the practice, day in and day out, as well as, being very close knit where you have your son at home. And obviously you had to make a choice at one point where, is this the best fit for us? Like, how do you kind of go through being intentional like that with your family and creating the vision that you guys have?
Yeah, that's great. And that is the journey we've taken. It's a journey that's very much been based on family and what's best for the family. And we've gone through, so my son right now, as we record this, is finishing. He's in the second half of his high school, freshman of high school year, which is a little bit amazing to me. It really puts a different look at the 3-year plan of the business, I will say. And that's definitely reflective of what we'll talk about here today. But yeah, we went through the whole thing, like the unschooling, the nature schooling, the regular old homeschooling, once the content needed to get a bit more intensive. And That was all mostly run. I have to put all the credit on Christina, my wife,
Mhm.
for doing that so successfully. And the choice that we made very early on was that that would be her primary role, even though we knew that if our business was going to grow to as big as our business could get, she needed to be involved day to day.
Mhm.
So we made a conscious decision to not do that, to not have that be the focus for this period of time where Will was growing up and of school age and all of that. And that really came from an exercise we actually did man, way back at one of the original Remarkable Life retreats. We have another one. They're reviving the Remarkable Life retreat this year. I'm very curious to see how that's going to be. I'm very sure it's not going to be exactly what I experienced, which was about 20 people at a beach house experiencing the Remarkable Life retreat. But it was a formative moment for us because we really, and this is the exercise I would encourage listeners to do, we really took time to think about and determine our family values. So
Yeah.
in our process with the remarkable practice, we have doctors walk through personal core values and business core values, practice core values. Both of those are very important. And lots of times people think they're the same. They are not the same. They're definitely not the same. They can't be contradictory for sure. They have to flow together, but
Right.
they aren't oftentimes the same. And we came up with a set of core values that are very clear and that were fortunately so good. Like we set them out so well that they're the same. Like we haven't changed them as we've gone. And so we set forth at the top, like the two most important things for us, family and health. Like
Mm.
family and health. These are the two things that can't be violated no matter what. So when we filter any of our decisions through our core values, it has to start at those things. Is this best for the family? Is this conducive to our health? Because that's, of course, the core of everything that gives us energy. And then we have a set of core values that kind of fall underneath that, which is simplicity,
Mm.
freedom, abundance, and peace of mind.
So,
So that's the order in which we think about them always. So it's easy enough for me to just say that, right? Like, oh, those are our core values. But that took a ton of work to get to those
yeah.
six things. And so as we then looked at the business, we knew that the business couldn't violate family or health, and it needed to be done in a way that still provided our family simplicity, freedom, abundance, and peace of mind.
Oh, that's
So
beautiful.
that's how we've done it.
I love that simplicity is in there. That's a one that probably many people haven't considered how impactful of making that one of your top values and living in alignment with that. That makes a lot of decision making easier, probably.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. That's a good
Absolutely.
one also for many businesses.
Yep. It's on that is the one overlap on our
Yeah.
business one. It's our
Yeah.
one overlap.
That's awesome. Okay. So, talk role play me through or give me some insights of like, okay, you guys obviously aren't brand new in practice anymore. Your son is now transitioned into public high school, right? Which is a
Correct.
big
Yes.
decision. How have some of these values helped you when you guys are having these crossroads of like maybe homeschool isn't the best option anymore for the family? Is that do you and Christina sit down and really just have that conversation where you look at like here's the structure we hold with our values being intact. And now let's look at what our options on the table are.
Yes.
Move forward.
Definitely. In regards specifically to that, to the homeschool decision and to move away from that. Well, first off, so I think that having a meeting with your spouse is
Mm,
imperative. That's oftentimes the thing that gets kicked to the side, like because
yeah.
other things show up or whatever. We have a meeting on our calendars every week to meet together.
Mm,
We actually have one for family meeting and we have one for our business meeting because we have both roles in our
I love
relationship.
that. Hmm.
Yeah. So and it's easy to blend them, but we just call each other out like this sounds like it should be in the business meeting, or this sounds like it should be in our personal meeting. So
Yeah.
we keep that there. But with the homeschool decision, we literally sit down with the values, with our core values, And we had the idea at some points because, I mean, I was a high school teacher, so just so
Mhm.
everybody listening knows this, I was a high school teacher before I became a chiropractor. It was brief, 2.5 years of doing that. Really loved it, truly, but then became called to chiropractic. So, as we were looking at our homeschool plan early on, I had the idea, and we had the idea that probably by high school, this would be a good idea to get him into the schooling system, the public schooling system, and have actual professionals teaching the serious stuff, the science, the math, the language arts, all of that. And as it got closer, as we're going through middle school, it actually became very clear that continuing the homeschool relationship between Christina and Will in particular was anti our family value at that
Mhm.
point. It was not going that great. There were plenty of signs that things needed to be different. And so that's what helped drive our decision to change that.
Yep.
And because of the practice setup that we have, where Christina's never been fully out of the practice, but she was pretty darn out of the practice for a long time, it actually was the perfect time for her to re-engage
Mhm.
in a COO role with the practice and jump in and, again, run the business and run the team.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, in my experience in this last year, in asking really, gosh, I'm trying to think when I first started to really dive into what are we going to do next. So I have two boys, they're 10 and 5, and my 10-year-old has gone to this sweet little Christian school for years. He would have been, there 4 years, and my youngest was at the point where I'm like, okay, we have about one more year with him at home before we choose a school for him. And it was just I'll give you the example of what went through my mind. He was in a sweet little in-home preschool, but there was a requirement of a nap. And if he would nap during the day, I couldn't get him to go to bed at night, which, these are the little things that create where somebody is just really struggling, right? So it was like, okay, if we can't get him to bed at night, then there's no time for Kyle and I to have just normal adult time together. And because Max is struggling to go to sleep because he's napped too long for what his body requires at this point. And
Yes.
that was part of where I was like, well, we can't do it the way we're doing it now next year because he can't stay at that in-home, but he's not ready to go to school yet. So we've got to remodel like how this works because I'm not going to have another year of us like struggling at night. And that's when I really started to think about, well, if we were ever going to try and homeschool, this would be our year because then I'm going to have
Yeah.
some help at home anyways. And so we just went into it reserving the right to come Christmas time, put him back in school. And it's been a gift. Part of, I think, what the biggest gift has been is seeing the relationship my two boys have fostered with each other because they're each other's playmate right now. And then we've had to just be really intentional about other things that we're adding in. And there's a local co op we got engaged in. But I still, with my husband right now, we're making the decision of like, what will we do next year? Will it be homeschool still? Or, and this is where I think our philosophy of watching how life happens through us and how things unfold, we were toying with the idea of them going back into this Christian school. And instead, that's cool. We got a notice last week that they're closing. And so I was like, well, there's our
Oh,
answer. It's not going to be that.
yeah.
So, I think the vision story for our practices, of course, but also for our life has to be constantly relooked at, played with, journaled on together, both and independently so that you're both bringing your desires for different parts of your life, whether that's in your finances, whether that's in your family goals, that whether that's in your personal health goals, fun experiences, right? So I think that's something that was instilled into me early on, which was just like how important sitting maybe first thing in the morning and just putting some of these thoughts down on paper routinely. And then
Yes.
asking yourself those deep questions of like, if I could create anything here, if I wanted something different, what would that look like? And I don't know about you, Chris, but one of the areas that I actually struggled the most with was I was never that person who really thought super far out in the future, especially as it related to like, what do I want in my personal life? Like, maybe I knew enough to know I want to see this many people in my practice because maybe a mentor had told me that. But like writing the storyline of your life, your relationship, your kids' lives and relationship, I had not really spent a lot of time with that. And so that's something for me that I know I have to be intentional about because it doesn't come as naturally to me as other parts of my life to even
Yeah.
question what could be possible. Mhm.
And that's why I'm glad we're talking about it,
Mhm.
honestly, is early on in my career, even pre the remarkable practice, which it was early on in my career when
Yeah.
that's the fact. I had a great mentor who had the concept that you first determine what life you want, and
Mhm.
then you build your practice to serve that
Yeah.
vision. And I think so many chiropractors, we get these images, right? If it's anything about social media or what we see in our emails or what we talk
Yes.
about with others that, if people are talking about us from the stage or like whatever it might be, this big grandiose life. It needs to be all full of bling and travel and things
Yes.
and like all this. And sometimes that's not what people want. And
Right.
so I love your
Permission
practice of
to pursue
sitting.
your own dream. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, craft your own dream. What is it that comes from your own innate? What is it that comes from your own values as an
Right.
individual and as a family? And that's why I love your morning routine. Sit there. It's the concept that I talk about quite a bit, which is deep work before
Mhm.
inputs.
Mhm.
Like if we get into the inputs in our day, oh my gosh, we just get steamrolled by them immediately because we're in a world that just has unlimited inputs, right? We can consume, 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 and never actually get to the point where we're thinking original thoughts
Yes.
anymore. And so in the profession, I really would love more people to be living their innate, living their true lives, crafting a life that they want, and then creating a business that supports that.
Yeah.
And there's no right or wrong to whatever that life needs to be. It's
Mhm.
just make sure that it's yours and not
Right.
some other vision that you got.
Yes. That's heavy right there to just even try and sometimes you don't even know what is yours and what was maybe input for you. I know for myself in practice, there was a certain volume per week that was given to me that I must get there. And that was like lasered into my brain. And that was helpful on some level. It offered a lot of opportunity. But I remember arriving at that volume and thinking, oh my gosh, what do I do next? Right. Because
Yeah,
I hadn't really had to think much. I had to do at that point.
yeah,
And this year, I like what you said there, Chris, about like, you know, make sure you're aware of what your dream is and then reverse engineer it essentially, right? Like know what
yep,
you want your life to look like and then figure out also how does that work with my practice, right? For us, when we made that decision to homeschool and to have more travel with the entire family this year, we bought a RV 2 years ago, things like that, right?
mhm,
And then I was like, yeah, if we're going to do it, this is the year we've just crafted this. So I need to stick to that goal. Well, of course, you get squeezed in the like, are you really going to do it? Or are you going to stay in the pattern that has worked up until this point? So I
yes,
had some turnover on our team. And I remember consciously thinking in the past, I would have inserted myself back in and
mm,
in more ways, and then, shouldered what needed to be shouldered. And I thought, but I've made this commitment to homeschool my kids and to go like live this camper life for a bit.
yep,
And so that I just held at the forefront of how we were going to walk out what needed to happen next so that I didn't do what I previously would have done, which is not wrong. It just wasn't going to lead to the life that I really wanted to live over the next year or two with this opportunity we had as a family. And it's so far gone great, but I had to
cool.
have that vision to help me walk that out and make new choices for sure. Mhm.
Definitely. And it takes fortitude to do it,
Right. Yeah, it's not
especially when
easy.
you've been there. Yeah, it's not easy. You've been there before. You've put stuff on your own back. You've carried the practice. Most people listening to this understand what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And there's a time where it's just like, okay, that's no longer serving my values to do
Right.
it that way. We
Right.
need to, if anything, we need to build a level of durability in the practice if we need the practice to stay at a certain point so that we can live the life that we want.
Right.
Or we make the choice that maybe the practice isn't going to be what it absolutely could be if we just totally put the foot to the floor
Yep.
so we can live the life that we want.
Yep.
But either
Yes. There's
way,
not a right answer there.
yeah, not a right answer. And I think the only right answer is when you know that you're living the life that you want to live,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
if there's that nagging, like, oh, I wish it was different than this, make it different. That's the good thing about being a business owner, right? Like,
Yes. Be intentional. Don't burn it to the ground.
right.
Strategically start to move in that direction. And that's that strategy piece, right?
Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. And I mean, I think, for y- hopefully the listeners are here, like hopefully they're churning, hopefully they're pushing pause, like what's that mean for me? Hopefully they're, oh, I got to go back and re-listen to that part. Ooh, I need to set up that weekly meeting with my spouse or my partner
Yes.
or whatever it might be. There's lots of things that I think we've talked about that are actual action items that can
Yes.
come out of this. The one thing I don't want people to do is just be like, I don't have time to even think about this. I just need to, jump back into practice. I have to keep going. I have to whatever. If life isn't what you want it to be right now, please take time. Take a day off, right? Like tell
Mm,
your team, reschedule everybody from Friday the whatever, because I'm doing a retreat with my spouse and we are going to figure this out. There's
mhm.
action items that need to be taken from this. Otherwise, the hamster wheel keeps rolling, the treadmill keeps going. We keep doing what we've always been doing. And if that's not delivering you what you want, you
Great.
have to change.
Yes. Good call to action there. Okay. I'm going to set up my weekly meeting with Kyle because we don't have one. We have a
There
day
you
night,
go.
but it does move. So that's a great step for me. Chris, how about you? Anything you got to do for Remarkable Life right now?
Yes, because I am at a point. So, Lona, you know me well, but the listeners may not. My son is very much into baseball. I've
Mhm.
always we one of the ways we set up our life was that I could coach him in baseball, going through
Love it.
the youth leagues and some of these fall and spring leagues. This year I don't have any of that. I don't have any coaching to do, but I don't want to miss a single game that he gets to play in. So in
Oh,
my practice, we're looking forward, and this is a little bit short timeline, but we're looking at May, June, and July, which is when his games are going to be this year. I'm setting up my practice in a way that I'm not going to miss those games because, yeah, and I
love
know
that.
3 years from now when he's no longer in high school, I'm not going to look back and be like, man, I wish I would have worked all those afternoons instead of
Yeah.
gone to his games. And that's the thing. When I look at those values, family is there, and so is freedom. Freedom is our, second one that we think about. I have to craft that freedom in my practice so that I can live out May, June, and July right now
Mm,
exactly how I want to.
that's beautiful. Well, thank you, Chris. Thanks for sharing all of that. We'll see you in
Well,
Arizona in a few weeks here.
absolutely. Yep.
Uh,
The business immersion coming up. And if you're listening to this after that, make sure you make the practice immersion in October.
yes. Yes. All right. Well, you have a great day, Chris. Thank
All
you.
right. You too. Thanks, Dr. Lona.
Yep. Bye bye. Hey everyone, please listen in for this next bonus interview of one of our remarkable success partners. They all help us help more people find the benefits of chiropractic. So listen on.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Coach Day, and I have the privilege and the honor to interview Jeff Langmaid with the Smart Chiropractor. And he is someone that I have employed as part of my team to help reach the patients that were once in my practice and have, stepped out for whatever reason. They become inactive, and they're great people. They just, potentially forgot that that their spine was important, and they forgot to reschedule that appointment, or somehow they fell off. And I'm sure all of you listening have had that happen at one point or another. And so Jeff has created a fantastic product that I hope he's going to be discussing with everyone today, and how they're able to, bring those people back into your practice. And so those downstream metrics is the one that's going to be influenced the most is your net mo, right? The one that everyone loves to talk about, net momentum. So your new patients plus those reactivations minus those that are going inactive. And Jeff's just done a fantastic job for us, increased our bottom dollar just by getting those reactivations in there. So Jeff, thank you for that. And I want to go ahead and open up with one of my very first questions for you is, what is the specific problem that you solve? All businesses, they exist to solve a problem, right? So what problem is it specifically that you solve?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I appreciate your kind words. A lot of what we solve are the ability to stay engaged with your patients over time. And we think about that through three specific life cycles. We think about new patients when they come in, ensuring they have a great patient experience and are onboarded appropriately, and that generates more referrals up front. We think about improving active care retention by showing up each week through email, teaching and inviting consistently, and then reactivations as well for those patients that have gone inactive, consistently showing up, teaching, educating, and inviting them back with the reactivation offer. So the biggest challenge I'm going to say that we solve for many chiropractors is that they don't communicate often enough with their patients. They do a great job knee to knee, heart to heart within the four walls of their practice, but outside of the transactional missed appointment texts or maybe the occasional phone call, they're not consistently showing up in a way that enables the patient to stay connected to the practice, whether that's, again, referring a friend, a colleague, a partner early on, staying retained during active care and not falling off and out, or if they happen to, ensuring that you're staying consistently communicating to your inactive patients to generate those reactivations, which is such a critical component of building a durable business.
That's absolutely right. And like I said, some of those downstream metrics are so crucial, like net momentum, but the one that I like the most is profit, right? So, and communication is everything too, right? So, I mean, the more clear that we are with our communication, the more likely our patients are going to convert, which is obviously a big step of it, right? But then they're also going to understand chiropractic care so much better. So we get that retention aspect of it, which is great. So there's a lot of CEOs on the line right now. And, whether we're just getting started in practice or, whether we're 25, 30 years in practice, we always look at the ROI or the return on investment. So when we talk about your guys' service or services that you guys have for us chiropractors, what is the anticipated return on investment that these people listening can anticipate when they leverage you guys?
It's a great question. What we see is to keep a patient and or reactivate a patient. I'm gonna use the term client because when we look at some of these stats, they go side of just chiropractic. It's 42 times more expensive to acquire a new customer client patient than it is to retain or reactivate an existing customer client or patient. So if you're spending any money whatsoever on any sort of paid advertising, on any new patient acquisition, you got massive holes in your bucket and you're just wasting money if you don't have the ability to communicate over time and sort of patch some of those holes. We all got water coming in the top. That's the new patients. But if they're falling out the sides because your retention's not where it needs to be, or they're going straight through to the bottom and becoming inactive just when they complete that care plan, if not before, you're just missing a massive amount of opportunity and probably spending too much money in other places, because then you're going to look at your net momentum, realize you need more new patients because you're not offsetting it with reactivations and because your retention's struggling. So you're going to spend more than necessary to really generate the net momentum that you want, which would be positive. So you can be an infinitely growing and sustainable practice. Now, in terms of the key critical question, how is this going to work for me? It's a fantastic question, and I'll be direct when I answer it. It really is going to work for you depending upon two things. How big is your patient list? A bigger list gives you more opportunity. Doesn't mean a small list isn't valuable, but if you've been in practice more than a couple years, you got a list. And as long as it's 3, 4, 500, if not in the thousands, you got plenty of opportunity there. The more is there, the more opportunity there is for you. The second component is, what's your patient experience like? If patients want to come back, well, then showing up consistently, teaching and inviting is going to make it really easy for them to do so. So we always think of this also like a little bit of a truth teller, where if a doc is saying, it's not working, I always say, well, that would be like saying, well, I opened my practice, but nobody in my community ever wants to come in and see me. That's probably not the truth. The question is your offer in line? Are the campaigns that you've chose within our system aligned with the patients that you're trying to reactivate? Is the reactivation offer price, what's included, 30
Right.
days, 45 days, how long since you last saw them? Are you calling that out? And the beautiful part in our system is you can edit that, so it's no big deal. And we make it really easy to do so. But really critical components are understanding, one, that momentum equation that you discussed earlier, Dr. Kevin. And number two is understanding, hey, you got a few levers. We're going to give you the opportunity to get in front of your patients consistently. That's positive no matter which way you slice it. And then you have the opportunity as the doc to say, hey, let me pull some levers, push and pull my results based upon the offer I'm going to make.
That's right. You dropped a lot of truth bombs there. And a couple of them that I wanted to just kind of echo was, you need to have a system in place to onboard these people that are coming back, right? And one thing that I always like to coach to build docs and even skill docs too is like, when you have these patients reactivate, you need to avoid having the same talk track that allowed that person to think that it's okay for them to, step out. So to step out and, not keep their focus on their spine and their nerve system. So I think that's a crucial thing. And then you're right, developing an offer around that for those people to be incentivized to come back in. And then the other thing too is, remembering the remarkable standard for a patient to go inactive is 30 days, right? So, how many patients have not been in your office in the last 30 days, right? And they're no longer, considered to be an active person following through with your recommendations for care. And here's what I love to teach on this too, is if you don't document that they're stepping out of the practice, you have no way of marketing to those people. And that's what I absolutely love about what you guys do is, you give us the opportunity to reach those people that, otherwise would not get any information about chiropractic care. So that's one thing that I personally love. So a couple other questions for you, Jeff. I know you're a busy guy, but I want to make sure, everybody gets the opportunity to hear this. But considering, what's important next, and as you look ahead and assess the need for our profession, how are you helping doctors be prepared for success in the future?
I think the number one thing is to stay connected to the community and ecosystem that you've built. We see over time, algorithms can change. Things can change really quick. So the question becomes, well, what are those controllable items that you have? And unfortunately, it's difficult to control some of these large tech companies, but you can absolutely control your email list. You can absolutely control via email the communication that you have with your patients. So in some ways, I'll say that, this goes back to the basics, where it is about a direct communication line with the individuals who know, like, and trust you. And that's your patient base. And having consistency with that communication is one of the best things that you can do for your business, not only today, but also in the future. Because one thing we do know is that paid acquisition for new patients is not going to get cheaper anytime soon. There's
That's right.
always a different way to think about it in a short-term fix. And that's why there's those individuals and helpers out there that can assist in that and get you the best bang for your buck. But ultimately, reaching out and connecting with the individuals who you've already spent that customer acquisition cost on, doubling the lifetime value. Let me be super clear with something as well. Many patients that reactivate into your practice should not be coming back for one adjustment and see you later. This should be literally doubling potentially the lifetime value every time you are, multiplying the lifetime value of that patient, because when they come back in, theoretically, you're going to do an exam. You're going to do what's right for that patient. You're going to have a care plan, a plan of action based upon what you find in your examination and their personal health goals. So every time a reactivation comes in, not only is your customer acquisition cost zero because it's already been handled, but now you are into your favorite thing, Dr. Kevin, which is profit. That enables you to be as profitable as possible by increasing, doubling, tripling, potentially more, the lifetime value of that patient. And as business becomes more evolved, more advanced, more challenging in many ways, being able to maximize the lifetime value of your existing patients, being able to keep your customer acquisition cost under control, and having reactivations as a zero in that equation helps really keep your new patient acquisition cost under control.
That's right.
It's just a really good business idea.
That's right. That plays into one of the big things we're going to be discussing is LTV CAC, lifetime value to the cost to acquire a customer. Ooh, that is such an important metric to understand. So, Jeff, thank you for the clarity on what it is that you provide for this profession. And, thank you on behalf of TRP and myself as well in my practice for what you guys have been able to do for us and what you're continuing to do. So I think the last thing for you to do is let everyone know what's the easiest way for them to get a hold of you.
Yeah, easiest way is to head over to thesmartchiropractor.com, thesmartchiropractor.com. Great place to be able to connect if you would like to schedule a demo, you'd like to get started today, or you want to connect across any of our social channels. If you want to follow us online, we're constantly putting out, emails, blog posts, videos, and everything we can do to be helpful so that we can, similar to Remarkable Practice, we can help you help more people. That's what we are in this for. So there's a bunch of tools and resources over at thesmartchiropractor.com.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Have a great one.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Build Your Remarkable Practice podcast. Remember, what the world needs now is chiropractic, and what chiropractic needs now is more successful chiropractors. If you like the podcast, please subscribe, share with your friends, and leave us a review. And if you'd like to connect with us personally, please click the links in the show notes to schedule a call.